cosplayer disguised someone else's work as their own, used it to cheat in a cosplay contest, and then got caught red-handed. But how do you cheat in a cosplay contest? Well, I've been competing in cosplay contests for 10 years and I've judged them for like 6, so I'm gonna make sure you know how these contests work to explain the biggest cosplay contest cheating scandal in years. So we're not talking about a Halloween costume contest where the guy dressed as Jesus wins because that's funny. These are craftsman contests that usually happen at anime, comic, and gaming conventions, and they focus on the quality of the handmade cosplay. So you're getting judged on your craftsmanship. Judges are looking at the sewing, the prop work, the foam work, and 99% of the time, the person competing is also the person wearing the cosplay. But there are also plenty of competitions that will let you use a model to wear the cosplay instead. The creator just also has to be present. These contests were born in a time before high-quality pre-made cosplays were widely available. A time where if you wanted to cosplay most characters, you had to make that cosplay. And these contests remain a way to reward and celebrate people for honing and learning all of these skills to bring everybody's favorite characters to life. And the stakes can range anywhere from international trips to thousands of dollars to just bragging rights. But these contests kind of remain the Wild West with wildly different rules and regulations between each one. But the biggest general rule that most of them have is that you yourself must have made some percentage of that cosplay, and usually that percentage falls at 70%. But the more you hand make, the better. Winners are determined by a lot of different factors, but the short version is the best made cosplay wins. Not the flashiest or the funniest. And there are only 2 ways you can cheat in a cosplay contest. And the first is by lying. Cosplays are really difficult things to make, and sometimes it takes a village, and getting help from a friend putting on thousands of rhinestones is not inherently cheating. But buying an entire cosplay and passing it off as if you made it yourself is. We'll get to that. The thing is though, some people do just buy pieces for their cosplay, and that in itself is not inherently cheating. But it's not always a good idea. If someone enters into a contest in a cosplay that's this big armor piece that they made, and that looks amazing, but then they just bought some pants. You're not disqualified for not making your pants, but the judges cannot judge you on a pair of jeans that you yourself did not make. Then in the same competition, somebody enters in the same cosplay of the same character, which happens a lot actually. And this cosplayer made both the armor and made those pants. Both people did a great job on the armor, but who do you think the judges are going to place higher? When you buy something for the cosplay, you are eliminating a piece of that cosplay that could have been used to show the judges a different skill. And nowadays, competition is really fierce, and showing every skill that you possibly can is really important in these contests. The other way you can cheat is something we call sandbagging, and sandbagging usually means being bad on purpose because you're not taking your opponent seriously, but somehow in cosplay we gave it an entirely different definition. Sandbagging in cosplay is entering a cosplay that has already won a major award into another contest. If you win like a smaller award and you enter again to try to get a better award, that's usually totally fine. But if a cosplay has already won Best in Show, most contests will not allow it to be entered. Though Wild West again, some contests are actually totally okay with double dipping, but most contests aren't, and even when they are okay with it, most of the community kind of looks down on it anyway. So you can imagine how mad people were when this person got caught doing both. But before I get to that, I gotta thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I've been doing a lot more fun hand-drawn graphics lately because I finally got my hands on Adobe Fresco. And if you've got a new software to learn too, Skillshare is the perfect place. Because Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives. And it's got thousands of classes ranging from illustration to design and film to freelance productivity and more. And the classes are all led by industry experts. And Skillshare has some cool new improvements too with smarter class categories, and now you can even search classes by material or software. So if you want to get on the Fresco train, you've got tons of class options and they're all really easy to find. This class from Lisk Feng called Creative Digital Illustration does a great job of taking you through the basics of my new favorite software. Plus this class called Learn to Draw, an Intro to Drawing Foundations is helping me get back the skills that I have lost over the years since college to maybe take me to higher heights than my weird starfish people. So if you want to get in on thousands of classes in countless creative categories, learn some new creative skills, and maybe even take your career or side hustle to the next level, listen up. Because the first 500 people to use the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. I'm gonna get back to talking about a cheater, and you can get started with Skillshare today. So this all started on Twitter. And it doesn't start with the cheater, it starts with her victim, Lena Leovy, a talented cosplayer living in Russia with a small following. Back in 2019, Lena created an incredibly detailed cosplay of the characters Seth Nightroad, or Night Lord, I think he has 2 names, from the anime Trinity Blood. She documented the process of making this on her Twitter and even won an award for it. Years later, she ends up selling the cosplay for a mere pennies to someone across the world, a Rhode Island cosplayer by the name Myra Theon. Myra had been cosplaying since 2014, and while I was able to find a little bit about her from a few old articles, it's hard to say what she had been up to recently because, spoiler, she deleted all of her social media accounts. But I did find this 2017 interview she did with the channel Geeky Panda. And from that, I found out that at the time, she was involved with one of the largest Star Wars charity groups, the 501st Legion. She was also apparently, at that time, a full-time cosplayer doing commission work. And commission work is when you have someone else pay you to make a cosplay for them. And from what I hear, it's one of the most miserable jobs out there, and it's not something anyone should be aspiring to do. Anyway, she talks about her most recent cosplay, where she's very upfront that she got some help from some of her friends on some of the armor pieces, but that she did all of the sewing. And she seems like a bright and talented cosplayer who said some things that I fully agree with.
My biggest thing is, if you are okay with your costume, then that's perfectly okay. You don't have to make your costume screen accurate. You don't have to be the best at what you do. It is whatever makes you happy, and you do as long as you are comfortable with your costume and you're having fun.
In a different interview, she claims to have sold the rights to a female Titan Zentai suit design to ZentaiZentai.com. And if you have no idea what I just said, do you know those morph suits, those body suits that have printed stuff on them so you can look like Spider-Man or something? Well, she's basically saying she designed that actual graphic that gets printed on those body suits to the largest seller of those kinds of bodysuits. But she apparently didn't like wearing the cosplay anymore because too many people had her design. Okay. She seemed like a talented cosplayer, a proclaimed contributor to ready-made bodysuits. She got help from friends sometimes, but was upfront about it. But flash forward 6 years and she would be saying,
you don't have to make your costume.
Back to Lena. She doesn't know much about the buyer after the cosplay is sold, and never really sees the cosplay or the buyer again until she gets a message. Somebody messaged Lena asking if Myra was wearing Lena's Seth cosplay, as it looked incredibly similar. Lena tried to look at Myra's page, but she was blocked. But she is able to find an Instagram reel with Myra in it. The reel was posted by a photographer who had gotten a clip of Myra at Katsucon, and its caption kind of set everything off. The photographer wrote, "I was blown away by Myra's dedication and attention to detail in bringing this character to life, and that she clearly put a tremendous amount of effort into capturing the essence of the character." Despite what the caption said, this was Lena's Seth cosplay. And yes, it is possible that 2 people can make a cosplay of the same character and the 2 cosplays come out almost indistinguishable. But Lena had taken so many artistic liberties with Seth, extra details that made it incredibly clear to Lena and anybody with eyes that this was Lena's Seth. But then what seemed like an innocent photographer's crediting mistake spiraled into a giant cheating scandal because Myra wasn't just telling random photographers that she made the cosplay. No, she had been entering a cosplay that she bought from another person into craftsmanship contests without Lena's knowledge. And not just once either. She took this cosplay to several cons to compete and even win awards. She allegedly competed in up to 4 costume contests, but I was only able to find footage of 2 of them. She also allegedly won Best in Show at Kineticon and 2nd place Masters at Anime NYC, but this stuff is really hard to find now because her shit's gone. And the 2 I have footage for are her winning Best Needlework at Fan Expo Salt Lake and her competing at the New York Comic Con Crown Championships of Cosplay qualifier where she was rightly beaten out by the GOAT. Sarcasm, Hime. After Lena finds out about this, she tweets about it where she does include proof that Myra was in fact the buyer. To make it even worse, it turns out that the Seth cosplay wasn't even the only cosplay that she bought and passed off as her own. She also bought Kim's Sakizo Necromancer and allegedly competed in that too. As this is happening, Myra tries to explain herself to Lena. This was just some big misunderstanding, okay? Myra admits outright that the cosplay is in fact Lena's, but she claims that she didn't know that Lena was blocked. She admits that she did win awards, but she claims that she had just used the cosplay as a base, that she had rebuilt and retooled parts of it and even made a build book for the parts that she remade. She also says that she told all of this to the judges, that she was very upfront that the cosplay had been purchased and retooled. Were you now? So there's an interesting thing that Crown Championships does with its stage presentation. When the cosplayer walks across the stage, the MC reads a little script about how that cosplay was made. And that script is written by the cosplayer. So while Jeremy Carey, is reading this script, these are Myra's words.
This costume features over 5,000 hand-sewn beads and crystals, displaying techniques such as deconstruction of lace, warbler, EVA foam, laser printing, corsetry, prop work, and more. It took over 3 months of work and required copious amounts of midnight Taco Bell trips to complete. Y'all give it up!
Suffice it to say, not all of Myra's statements really line up. She also claims that the award she got for needlework was just for some embroidery that she herself added to the cosplay, but I'm sorry, needlework categories encompass all of sewing, and I know she didn't change any of the sewing for reasons I'll get to later. She does say that there were some cons that didn't place her because the cosplay wasn't entirely handmade, which could easily be true, and if I were to speculate and allege on my own, this is speculation, I think that, it's possible that she got that feedback and then realized it was probably good to omit that information in the future. She also then apologizes for the photographer, saying that the photographer just misunderstood what she said, which could be completely believable. I wanted to reach out to the photographer, but then I realized most of his content now is putting eggs in camera bodies, and I was a little horrified anyway. So we do know it's the same cosplay, but do we have any proof that she did make major changes to the thing, and how many changes would be enough to warrant competing in it? Unfortunately, because all Myra's accounts are gone, it's really hard for me to find high quality photos of the cosplay on her, but what I do have is her statement from Crown. Remember, she wrote this. These are her words.
This costume features over 5,000 hand-sewn beads and crystals.
I'm gonna be fair and I'm gonna give her this one. There is actually one difference between when Myra owned it and when Lena owned it. If you look at the footage from Crown, you can see that on the edges of some of the armor, there is a sparkling glint. And in this photo, there's a weird pink sheen coming off of those edges, which makes me think that those are AB rhinestones. And there are close-up pictures of Lena in the armor, and there's no rhinestones right there. So this one is actually true, but it goes downhill from here.
Displaying techniques such as deconstruction of lace.
How are you deconstructing lace that's already on the costume? Lena has progress pictures of the lace going on, and that's a lie.
Warbler, EVA foam, laser printing, prop work, and more.
We know Lena did those too, and I see no difference on the foam work other than the added rhinestones.
Corsetry.
This one's probably the most egregious, but I'm gonna wait a second for it.
It took over 3 months of work and required copious amounts of midnight Taco Bell trips to complete.
Guess she ordered extra liar pants on fire sauce. And it's not mentioned, but I do believe that she at least modified some tights because hers are different than Lena's. But even with all of that, we do have high quality photos of that necromancer cosplay I mentioned, and with my several months of experience looking at r/findthesniper posts for way too long, I can confidently say that I see no difference in the necromancer cosplays whatsoever. So in my opinion, all she actually did to rework the cosplay was make new tights, add a bunch of rhinestones, and I will give her the overly fair assumption that somewhere on the cosplay, she did some extra embroidery. You don't need to know a lot about cosplay to know that that doesn't come anywhere near the 70% rule that most contests require. But I know a lot about cosplay, so I want to point some things out that Lena would have had to do to make this thing. The thing that sets making cosplays apart from making normal clothing is that most cosplays are almost always impossible garments drawn with no regard for the laws of physics or normal garment construction. And Seth Nightroad exemplifies that. The first hurdle of all cosplays, but especially complicated ones, is figuring out what the fuck the character is even wearing. And I'm sure that it took Lena long hours to even know where to start on patterning this thing. Patterns are the templates that we use to make garments. And if you want to make a pair of jeans, you just go to the store and buy a jeans pattern. But when you have a weird outfit like this, you have to pattern it yourself. It takes time and measurements and drafting and redrafting to get it right, and while it's easy for me to point out all of the intricate details that went onto this cosplay, the intricate lace detailing, the subtle airbrushing on that armor, the perfectly smooth warbler work, I want to specifically point out that this cosplay's very foundation would have been a challenge on its own, and Lena pulled it off really well. Patterning a cosplay yourself in these big competitions is a big deal. If you didn't write the roadmap for your cosplay and somebody else did for theirs, when everybody's work is amazing, every skill counts. And it's kind of just another point towards the audacity of thinking you could enter a cosplay contest in a cosplay that you bought and retooled. Even if you ripped apart every seam, took apart all the armor, and rebuilt everything from scratch, using Lena's only as a pattern, she still didn't pattern it. Not to mention the lace she didn't have to find. The ungodly structure for whatever that thing is on the back that she didn't have to figure out at all. And while she didn't place at Crown, she did place at Fan Expo Salt Lake, where she had claimed that she only got that needlework award for the added embroidery. But it turns out that was actually a Judge's Choice Award for needlework. And in the video, it seemed like the judge that gave her that award was Marielle Clark. Judges' awards can be given for any reason, but I decided to reach out to Marielle about this. I was apparently wrong. Marielle apparently wasn't actually a stage judge and was just presenting the award. But she was involved with that contest's online prejudging and was able to tell me that if there had been any indication that the cosplay had been commissioned, that she would have immediately been disqualified. I also reached out to the amazing Merida, who was one of the judges at the NYCC Crown qualifier, and who also is probably the most prolific cosplay pattern maker in the world. Anyway, she did remember judging Myra, but unfortunately she could not remember whether or not Myra had mentioned anything about the cosplay being purchased or commissioned or not. She said it was possible, but that she just couldn't remember. I don't really have any solid evidence whether or not she did or did not lie to judges. But with what Marielle said, it is possible that that information was either omitted or misunderstood. I've judged long enough to look out for people that are lying because I've had it happen before. One of the things that I've seen people do is buy a piece of commercial clothing and then claim that they made it. And with commercial clothing, there are actually some very specific and easy telltale signs that it is not handmade, and there are some very specific questions that I can ask people that if they don't know enough about sewing, they won't know the answer to it. That stuff is very easy to catch. What's harder or even impossible to catch is handmade work made by someone else. However, there are some systems in place for con runners and judges to be able to tell if somebody did actually make that cosplay. Some cons go as far as to check the competitors' social media profiles for in-progress pictures or prior work photos, but not all cons do that. Most cons primarily rely on build books. Build books are short! Please stop making them 16 pages long, short pamphlets that usually consist of a bunch of progress photos of that cosplay. Their primary use is to help show the judges how that cosplay was made, because most costume contests have pre-judging, which is where judges get to look at the cosplay up close before the stage show, but often pre-judging times can be as short as 3 minutes long, so build books also serve as a way to make sure you get all the information out that you need to without forgetting it in the 3-minute word vomit that you are allotted. And having photos of that cosplay in the process of being made is usually enough to prove that that person made that cosplay, except in this case, Lena had posted a lot of work in progress photos on her Twitter without herself in any of them. Yeehaw! Anyway, here's how I know for sure that she didn't actually make any changes besides the rhinestones, that she didn't use Lena's as a pattern, and that the corsetry claim is not just a straight up lie, but kind of a stupid thing to say. One telltale aspect of all of this that I have not mentioned yet is fit. Now, I want to make it really clear that judges should not and will not take into account your size versus the character's size. Your body shape, your race, your gender, nothing about the body inside the cosplay matters, because your body indicates absolutely nothing about your craftsmanship. But the way a cosplay fits that body does, because fit is a part of craftsmanship. And in the video from Crown, when she turns around, you can see that the cosplay is open in the back. This is why I'm pretty confident that the corsetry claim is a lie, because I'm pretty sure that I would be able to see a corset and I see her skin. Maybe the corsetry claim is some kind of reference to some boning that might be in the dress that I can't see and wouldn't really have a reason to be there because it goes over the shoulders, but the dress closes with an invisible zipper. It's not a corset. In Lena's pictures, it is fully closed, meaning that originally it did close in the back. You'd think that if you were going to make changes to this cosplay, so many changes in fact, that you thought you were allowed to compete in it, you'd think the first thing you do is make it actually fit you. You're like, yeah, it is legitimately harder to make a garment bigger than make it smaller, but it is nowhere near impossible. You remade the outrageously intricate pieces, but you couldn't add in an extra green panel or make it a lace-up back so that it could close? Nah, it's just easier to use that back plate to cover up the gap. Is it possible that Myra was just ignorant to what is expected of cosplayers in this contest? Most contests make that 70% rule pretty clear. But like, how do you calculate the percentage of a cosplay? By weight? She might have legitimately thought that adding the rhinestones was enough. And if she were a brand new cosplayer, I might believe that. Because, I don't know, if we gauge how much the general public knows about these contests by how the general public generally reacts to most public costume contests with their, "Why did the dress beat the Big Mac?" People don't understand these contests. It's kind of a problem. But Myra had been cosplaying for a decade at this point and was involved in large community groups, so I think she knew what she was doing. And the best indicator I have of her guilt is the fact that she blocked Lena. While this behavior is a giant outlier of audacity, it is a perfect example of how Yeehaw Cowboy Wild West the cosplay competition scene truly is. We don't have a standardized set of rules for these contests for cons to follow. And we don't have a 100% guaranteed way to know if somebody made the cosplay that they're wearing. Crown Championships is one of the biggest contests in the world, and nobody was able to catch her because she bought a handmade cosplay from a small creator thousands of miles away. And I really don't blame the con runners or the staff or the judges in the contest she competed in for not catching this, because she could have easily fooled me. The wildest thing to me, honestly, is why? For prize money? For attention? For me and most people that I know that compete, we don't really do it for the prizes. Like, the prizes are very cool. We look forward to the prizes. We like prizes. Please give us prizes. The reason why we break our backs and cry and sweat and bleed for these things is because we want to be proud of our abilities and our work. We want validation and approval from knowledgeable judges. And we want feedback from those judges on how we can improve and grow as makers. And all Myra really did is prove that Lena's work is so immaculate that it led several people to ignore a glaring fit issue. There's links to Lena's profiles in the description, by the way. You should go follow her. She's very talented. Myra has deleted all of their accounts, but if they ever come back from their shame walk, do not go bother them, because I will call your mom. No bullying. Don't go bully people. They made up a dumb lie and made some judges and organizers feel like fools, and I am so sure that when this happened, her DMs and her comments were full of awful, mean things that opened up wounds that can never be crunch wrapped up. And I feel really bad actually giving out her cosplay name, because while I can tell you not to go bug her all day long, it's still entirely possible that people will. But there is nothing stopping her from buying another cosplay from somebody who doesn't know anything about this and entering another competition with judges who have never heard of this before and doing this again. Except this time, it would be really hard to find out if she did, because she's not posting anything on social media anymore, and the only reason she got caught in the first place was because she posted the cosplay. I kind of want to warn as many people as I can so that nobody befalls the same fate as Lena. This girl made an amazing cosplay, and somebody else ran around shrouded in her blood, sweat, and tears, and whether intentionally or through misunderstanding, erased her contribution. But I don't know, she didn't kill anybody. But if you see her enter a cosplay contest, maybe show the staff this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel directly, you can check out my Patreon, where you'll get some exclusive content. But if you're just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sending the video to a friend or your mom, or subscribing, please subscribe. Then you're supporting the channel too, so thank you. And hey, this is your very aggressive reminder to register to vote. And a big thank you to my newest big support tier patrons: Angelic, Dolly, Cup, the Dumb Mute, Savannah, Holly, Logan, Ellie, Wild Whist, and Aya Baka. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!